Hey everyone, and welcome back to a new episode of Talking Clocks with Timeless Moments. It's been a while since I've done an episode, and as you may see, today is a solo episode. I do have a few more guests in the pipeline that we're working on right now, but um, it's been radio silence for a while, and I wanted to kind of, you know, put a new episode out just because it's been so long, and I didn't want you guys to think that I totally abandoned this either. Because, I love talking, and I hope that someone out there might like listening as well. But we are back, and we are still talking clocks. So, a lot has happened since the last episode. The last episode was March of last year, and since then, in the clock industry, musical clock industry specifically, there has been so much going on. If you didn't know, Rhythm, which is one of the most prominent brands in musical clocks, has left the U.S. market. So that's something we'll be talking about a little bit today. um, Pretty big deal for musical clock enthusiasts and collectors, and including myself, because Rhythm has been my favorite brand since the beginning for me. I got my first rhythm clock when I was just 2 years old, and I still have that same clock to this day. But yeah, it's so crazy. I wrote this big, crazy kind of like sort of I don't know, farewell post that I was gonna post on January 1st, since they would be officially gone on January 1st. And I wrote it. I sat down there, I read it over, and I'm like, yeah, this is good. And I just never posted it. It's just like, I don't know. I could say so much about it, but at the end of the day, it really just boils down to the fact that it sucks. Um, it's really sad, because this company has brought happiness to me and so many other people all across the world, and I mean, especially in the USA. It's just really sad to know that this could be the beginning of the end for rhythm clocks. Rhythm themselves are still doing pretty well, as far as I know of. They have in Japan, which is where they're based, they do have quite a few other lines that they've started. Um, I'd say the mid 2010s, they started producing like small fans. And it's sort of it's taken off from there. Um, it's just they started with these little desktop fans that had USBs that you'd plug into your computer, and now they have rechargeable batteries and carabiners and stuff like that. It's pretty neat. I have quite a few myself actually, and when we go on vacations and go out during the summer, you'll see me. I'm carrying a rhythm fan around with me because they really are handy. Um, but yeah, and they've got quite a few other things. Their newest product release was last summer, and it is a Bluetooth speaker um, that has magnets on it. Two Bluetooth speakers, and they have like a little dock that they sit on. It's called Mag Speaker. If you Google Rhythm Mag Speaker, all one word, MAG speaker. If you Google it, you'll find some pictures of it. But last year, I think they put it out on basically like the Japanese equivalent of Kickstarter, and it totally blew away everyone's expectations and blew away their goals and everything. People were really liking the idea for the product and funded it, and now, as far as I know, it's available on Amazon Japan where you can order it. Again, not in the United States, unfortunately, because Rhythm USA has left. But yeah, so it's just such a surreal thing for me. at the time of recording this, I'm still going through my final shipment from Rhythm USA. I got about 70 clocks from them. And I know that my friends down at Champ's Clock Shop, they got like quadruple that. They were the ones to go to Rhythm's warehouse and clear it out at the end. They pretty much just said, "Yeah, we'll take whatever you got left," and yeah, so they went and they did that. I want to say last week. Last week, yeah. At the time of recording this, I think it was last week that they did that. Um, but yeah, and I also was lucky enough to get to help Champs with their. I'm trying to talk. I'm actually, fun fact for anyone listening to this podcast, I am playing Mario Kart currently. Doing a little multitasking. I'm doing a live stream that will be available for all of my YouTube members. We call them the Timekeepers. So they got a little bit of behind the scenes action and some bonus content from this episode, stuff like that. So if you're interested, check out the Timekeepers. But anyways, I digress. Back to what I was saying. I was lucky enough to get to help my friends at Champs get all of the remaining rhythm clocks from Rhythm USA's office space and showroom in Atlanta back in September of last year. And it was a lot of fun, but it was also very bittersweet, you know, because it's like, I've had dreams for quite a long time. I guess I can kind of talk about it now. Not that I couldn't talk about it before, but I've had dreams for such a long time to work for Rhythm. And they had expressed interest multiple times over the years in hiring me, dating all the way back to whenever I was in middle school. They asked my parents, the president at that time asked my parents, said, "When can we hire him? We want to move him down to Atlanta and have him work for us. He would be a great asset to our company." And man, being, 13 years old, just a teenager, hearing that I can work for this company that has brought me so much joy over the years, a company that gives me life, thinking that I would get to have some involvement in that and be able to, spread that joy to others. I mean, that was a dream that I chased for so long, and, a part of me still really hasn't given that up, even though there's no possible way that it will ever happen now. And, it's just, it's so crazy thinking about it now. There is sort of a possibility that if Rhythm didn't close down, or if they weren't in the state that they were in the last year or two, that I could have gotten to work for them for a short time. But unfortunately, that did not happen. But either way, though, Rhythm, I've been so blessed and so thankful to have a lot of those people in my life. And they've been great friends. They're really great people. And just the experiences that they've the experiences and memories that they've given me over the years, not just with their clocks, but with their just general hospitality, is just something that I will cherish for the rest of my life. And I I don't really know how much I'm allowed to talk about in general. They've never paid me anything, so none of my content is sponsored. It's just general love. But yeah, I mean, they've just been really nice over the years. They let me visit the showroom in Atlanta, Georgia, which is not open to the public, only open to dealers. Like, you have to have like a business license and all sorts of like credentials to even enter that facility. So I was very lucky to be able to do that. And, you know, it's really cool. There's a lot of stuff I wish that I could talk more about. And maybe someday I'll be able to, but just in general, it's just been really amazing. And it's just, once again, it just still doesn't feel real. But even then, that aside, I am really excited to see what the future holds in general for Rhythm themselves and also other companies as well. Obviously, when I say that, I'm talking about Seiko. Because Seiko really is the only other prominent clock brand that I feel is worth talking about. There are some other brands such as Power, based out of China, and Ajanta, I believe is how you say it. Ajanta, which is an Indian company. And a lot of the models that both of those brands produce are basically just rip-offs of Seiko and rhythm clocks. So, you know, I don't really upload videos of those because they are sort of knockoffs. They are kind of in a way like the great value version of Rhythm and Seiko, if that makes sense. The Walmart version, whatever you want to call it. The off-brand, the Amazon Basics. But yeah, Seiko actually has released a few new models this year already, or I guess it was late last year. And they also did that last year with the Winter Angels. Well, this year they released, I'm just going to say this year, late last year, early this year, whatever, potato. They released one called Trumpeting Angels. They already have one, I think, that's called Trumpeting Angels. But this is sort of like an updated version of it. And it's kind of like if the QXM 333B slash whatever the new one, or maybe that is the new one. There's the one that's like the QXM 532 BRH, maybe something like that. I don't know, but like as I think it was Wesley, I believe, calls these clocks the jaw dropper clocks. That's kind of like the design. It's sort of like a combination of the two original jaw dropper clocks, the QXM 111G, which it still sort of exists today. It's just colored a little bit differently. It plays different songs. And the QXM 128 BRH, which was a blue and wood grain version of that one, but it played Broadway show tunes instead of the Beatles songs. Beatles and Japanese songs that the QXM 111 GRH played. Sorry, I'm kind of all over the place a little bit. I hope that this is at least a little bit entertaining to some of you. I don't know, this is a little bit of a trial run to see if I can do any solo episodes in the future, so let me know if you did enjoy the solo episode, and I will do more if you did enjoy. Like I said earlier, I do have some guests planned, two in particular. You could probably guess the one. I've already talked about him, or his shop at least. That would be Jeff Champion from Champs. I'm also trying to get Nick Champion, Jeff's son, to hop on as well. Maybe. We'll see about that. And I do have one other guest that it's not confirmed. He said that he would really like to. So fingers crossed, because it could be one of the most interesting videos that I ever upload, slash audio that I ever upload. But more on that in the future, hopefully, if it works out. But yeah, with Rhythm leaving, back to that sort of, since that's essentially what this episode is about, we also, in the time between the last episode in March to now, had Rhythm sort of release their newest Magic Motion clock. And not just a reskin of an old one, not another gadget, not another time cracker or anthology. A completely new model called the Timedancer. And a lot of people had a lot of mixed opinions on it. I think the number one opinion that everyone can sort of unanimously agree on, whether you're a Rhythm fan or a Seiko fan, is that it really looks like a Seiko clock. It really looks like Seiko's Dancing Dial series, as I call them, the Dancing Dial clocks, which would be their special collector's edition models, such as the QXM 491 BRH, which is the 2013 special collector's edition. And they don't just, what am I saying? Those models exist outside of the collector's edition collection, if you want to say collector's edition collection. Those models exist outside of that. I think the most notable one is the Musical Motifs Melodies in Motion clock, which is QXM 366 SRH. How am I naming these off the top of my head? I don't know. I could be wrong on the model numbers though. Like especially the jaw droppers I was talking about earlier. I'm not confident that I was right on those, but yeah, so a lot of people were comparing the Timedancer to Seiko, as did I. And this comparison was happening even back, I can't even think when that was, but it was sometime last year whenever the patent leaked for that clock. It was in Japan. The patent had leaked, so we had seen some sort of drawings of what the Timedancer would look like. And then I was able to be the first person to ever post the clock online, which is surreal in itself. I just can't believe that I was the one that was able to announce not just any new Rhythm clock, but their new Magic Motion clock itself. That's just crazy in itself. But once the official clock was revealed in September, that's whenever the public was like, okay, yeah, even the colors look like a Seiko clock. And, you know, I have mixed opinions on it because obviously if you study these clocks, like I do, and like I know many of you do, you will know that these two companies have sort of been at each other's throats, and not at each other's throats. That's not the right saying, I guess, but they've been at it for a while, and they've been sort of, you know, borrowing ideas from each other for quite a few years now. The most notable examples, I feel, are the Floral Fantasy or Small World Eclore in Japan, the 4MH 663 by Rhythm, which was released in 1993, compared to Seiko's, the name I call it is Dancing Fairies, which is QXM 157 BRH, that was released in, I think, 2007 maybe? 2007 or 2008. I can't remember for sure. But the modern version of that is the Ballerina Melodies in Motion, which is QXM 297 BRH, I believe. And for anyone who doesn't know about clocks, really, I feel like I should sort of mention Seiko's model numbers consist, for an example, like a Melodies in Motion clock is QXM, that's the prefix for the QXM, and then the 297, like I said, is the actual like clock model number, and then the last three letters, which in this case would be BRH, is the color code. But the only country to use the RH, which can also be LH sometimes, is the United States. So overseas, if you were looking for the ballerina melodies in motion clock, for example, it would be known as the QXM 297B. There's no RH at the end. Why do they do this? I'll be completely honest, I don't know myself. I'm sure there is some logical reasoning behind it, but in more recent years, I'd say 2020, post 2020, Seiko USA has sort of, they haven't completely dropped these ending prefixes yet, but if you look on their Instagram account, for example, they won't post the full model number sometimes. They might not even post the actual color code at the end. Sometimes they'll just post the QXM 297 part of it. But yeah, those two models are very similar, the Floral Fantasy and the Ballerina Melodies in Motion, or Dancing Fairies. Some other ones would be like Rhythms SSS Encore, which is 4MH810-R06, which released in 2007, compared to Seiko's 2017 Special Collector's Edition, which is the QXM 574 BRH. I really hope all these model numbers are right. If they're not, I'm sure there will be somebody in the comments of the video on YouTube that will be correcting them, so be sure to check below. I think I'm right, but I'm also not 100% sure because I am in the middle of a Mario Kart race. But yeah, the 574 and the Encore look very, very similar in appearance on the dial. They both have these little ovals that go around the numbers, and these both are automaton clocks, but they have a different dial motion. It's just that whenever the clocks are in the closed position, like the dials look normal, they look very similar. And I remember very like vividly on Twitter, a lot of Japanese clock enthusiasts were saying this looks like Rhythm's Encore. And you know, it's kind of a thing at this point that these two companies get inspired by each other. I guess is the best way to put it. I don't want to say stealing, because you know, the thing that I do like about both of them is that they don't just directly rip each other off, like Power and Ajanta. They actually put effort into the designs. For example, let's go back to the ballerina Seiko clock I was talking about forever. That one, it opens the same. The dial opens the same in theory, but it looks very different. The clock has a case around it, and the dial is smaller. Whereas the Floral Fantasy, which is the clock that it's obviously based off of, has like an exposed case. The pedals actually come out of the clock's frame whenever it opens up. But yeah. Oh yeah, I was gonna sort of go over, for those who don't know, the Rhythm model numbers as well. I could sit here and explain it all day, but the easiest sort of way to describe it is they are sort of similar to Seiko's. They have the prefixes. So you've got the 4MH, and the 4MH tells you that it's a magic motion clock, or like at least a musical clock, because there are some clocks that are not magic motion clocks that are labeled 4MH, but it tells you that it's a musical clock, or a clock that chimes, that does not have a pendulum, at least like your standard swinging back and forth pendulum. If it was a musical clock that had a pendulum that swung back and forth, it would be 4MJ. But there's there's a lot. It gets a lot more complicated because the 4, for example, means that it's a step movement, not a sweep movement. If it was a sweep movement, it would be an 8. The M means that it's a wall clock. Uh, anyways, you get it. Prefix 4MH 663 is really the model number of the clock. And then at the end is Rhythm's color code, once again. And these tend to be a little bit more complicated because, like with the SSS Encore, it's 4MH 810-R06. And then if we talk about a rhythm clock like the Gadget, for example, it is 4MH 886-WD02. The WD, the slash, or the dash R, all that, it doesn't really matter as much, and they did used to have meanings, but in modern day, the meaning has sort of went away a little bit, or at least it's to the point where it's hard to understand what the meaning actually is. The only thing you really need to look at is the number at the end. For example, the Encore is 06, and that's brown. That's the color brown. 02 on the Gadget means that it's black. And 34 on the Floral Fantasy means that it's pink. There's probably a picture out there somewhere that breaks it down and tells you what each color means, etc., etc. I've probably got it somewhere in the depths of my computer. But yeah, it's sort of complicated, but once you figure it out, it's like another language. It's like I can look at a clock model number and like if you gave me CRJ732UR06, I could tell you that is a wooden mantle clock that chimes, and it has a swinging pendulum, and it has a brown, presumably wooden frame, and it was only released, or it started out at least, as an American exclusive model. And I could really sit here and break down exactly what each thing means and how it gets to that, but we would be sitting here for another half an hour. So, hey, if you guys want me to do a little in-depth kind of thing sometime, I will, for sure. That's kind of a fun story to tell. The last time I visited with some people at Rhythm, myself and one of the older senior higher up employees at Rhythm, we played a game, like sort of like a versus game. It was who can name that clock, and he would give me a model number, and I would have to give the model name of the clock, and vice versa. And we came pretty close. I remember my first time meeting him whenever I was 10 years old. It was 2011. And he was genuinely so surprised at all of the information that I knew, because at that time in Rhythm's office, they had a very cool display of just a lot of their history. They had a lot of different older models and some newer models, rare clocks, like very hard to find clocks as well, just sort of scattered all together in their office. And they were surprised that I had seen some of these clocks before because they were older than me. And I mean, it's just, man, one of the highlights of my life was going there, and being able to see that display. And unfortunately, obviously, it doesn't exist anymore. It wasn't anything super special. It just, I mean, in all reality, it kind of looked like my own collection. They had slat wall, and it was pretty much filled to the brim with rhythm clocks. Now, the really cool thing about that is that I actually have, well, two things. The original thing that I was going to say was that a lot of the clocks, if not all of them, that were in that display in 2011 are at Champs now. So you can purchase these clocks that were at Rhythm USA's office, which is really crazy. And the second thing that I sort of started to say is that I have some of those in my collection. For example, if anyone knows the Dream Cruise rhythm clock, which I believe is 4MH753-R06. That one came from Rhythm USA's office. And I do have a few others as well that weren't there back in 2011, but did come from the office. Another one that I will be getting that is waiting for me down at Champs is the Luxury Music Box, which is that one, if you know rhythm clocks, it's the one that was branded Queen Elizabeth II in Japan, and it has a little figurine that acts like it cranks the music box while the music plays. And oh my gosh, this track is so weird. I don't know where I'm going. I'm trying to sort of talk about this. I can't think of the model number on that on the Luxury Music Box. I know it's 4RH something 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 dash R06. But I don't know of the exact model number off the top of my head. There's one that I don't know. But yeah, and then the final one that I will get from the office is the Millennium Dancing Hands, which was a limited edition version of Rhythm's Fantasy Dancing Hands that was released in 2000, alongside some that you may know, like the Timecracker 2000, which is the original version of the Peaceful Cosmos, and then the Heritage Music Box, I believe it's called. The Heritage Music Box is a little bit different because the model number is 4ZH. So, that's a little bit different, and I'm not 100% sure what the Z means. I believe it's something like a limited model, but not all limited models have the Z in them. So it's a little bit complicated. But yeah. So, yeah. Anyways, nice little voice crack there. I think that's going to do it for this episode. I'm thinking that the next episode we will have a guest. So if you have any guests that you would like to hear from on the podcast, feel free to leave a comment on the YouTube video. Let me know. I kind of pronounced that weird. I'm racing my heart out over here. I almost did not get first. That was a little bit scary. But whew, I did it. But yeah, so anyways, thank you all for listening, watching, whatever you're doing. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Have an awesome day. Peace.